Hey, if you're wondering how the upcoming Easter holiday and the recently passed spring break have affected the real estate market here in Northern Virginia, then stay tuned. My name is Sean Price. I am with the Price and Price Group here at eXp Realty, and this is our weekly market report where we talk about what's been happening over the past 7 days. Um, this week's market report, I'm of course shooting from the field because I have been out showing houses. And it has been a very, very busy week. A lot of buyers going out and looking at properties. We've written a couple of offers. Of course, we're fighting multiple offers, not fighting 15, 20 offers like in the weeks past, but still fighting multiple offer situations. The pulse of the market's been a little bit strange. So last week it was uh, kind of calmed down quite a bit because of spring break, and we still did a few showings, but we didn't do as many showings as this week. Starting on Monday, it has been nonstop showings. So we've had buyers coming out of the woodworks, going and starting to look at properties again. So a lot of buyer activity, a lot of looking, a lot of properties jumping off the market very, very quickly. But the weird part about this has been that there have been some properties that I know for a fact 3 or 4 weeks ago would have gone under contract and gone with multiple offers that have made it through their first weekend and late into their second week. It's not a lot of properties, but there are some that have been surprising. So this is something we haven't seen in quite some time. And so it's kind of interesting, and I'm relating it to being spring break and then the Easter holiday because we do still have a lot of people out of town. There's a lot of people leaving town right now. As I'm speaking, it is Friday afternoon, so there's not going to be a lot going on this weekend. But yeah, so that's the general pulse. A whole lot of buyer activity this week, a whole lot of looking, a lot of properties coming on and going off the market. Actually, not a lot of properties coming on. The inventory didn't jump up a whole lot this week. But it's just been an intriguing and interesting week with a few of these properties kind of staying on the market that I didn't expect to. So let's get to the statistics, see numerically what's going on. But from the actual market aspect of it, from a buyer's perspective, be prepared to be competitive, be aggressive with your offers. And from a seller's perspective, I think it might be time to really, really, take heed and making sure that you're pricing your property appropriately, and don't just think you can throw anything on the market and have it move. You gotta make sure the house is in good condition or price it appropriately for its condition. Okay, so that's what I would think at this point. But let's see what the numbers say. Okay, so here we are graphically looking at what's happened over the last 7 days. And as always, the orange line represents the buyer activity, excuse me, and the blue line represents the inventory. So you can see that buyer activity was down by 11% over the last 7 days, but we did expect to see that because inventory had dropped the previous 7 days. And buyer activity, we're seeing a trend where buyer activity is typically following what's happening with the inventory by about 7 days. And if you think about it, the reason for that is we're using leading measures, which means we're using new inventory onto the market to represent the seller side of the transactions, and we're using properties that have gone under contract or active under contract or pending, and that's how we're determining buyer activity. So these are current trends. We're not looking at sold properties because sold properties are an indication of what happened usually about 30 to 45 days previous in the market. So since we're using such updated information within the 7 days, if inventory drops in a given 7 days, that means there's going to be less properties for buyers to buy. So we'll see the buyer activity drop. If inventory goes up, we'll typically see the buyer activity go up. So that's what we're seeing happening. So inventory came down uh, 7 days in the past. So buyer activity came down these past 7 days. Inventory went up this week. It went up 13%. So we'll expect buyer activity next week to go up. I'm really interested to see if this actually goes up because of all the traveling for the Easter holidays. So we'll see what happens there. Now, the gap is still here, and this gap is what indicates the seller's market. And so if you go over here to the strength of the seller's market, you'll see that it did reduce a little bit, but it's still up in a strong seller's market. So anything above this 100% neutral market line indicates a seller's market. And if you look at the bottom of these, this is what you want to look at to see the trend. There's a lot of chaos here. but what you want to do is you want to see what the trend is. And you can see that the lower limit trim is that we are increasing the strength of the seller's activity, our seller's market, even in the fact that we're in the spring break market right now. We're still increasing again. Now here it was a little bit stronger, and that was that 3 to 6 month period towards the end of the year of last fall and going into the spring where it was just chaotic and everybody was, fighting with 10, 15 offers. It's kind of calmed down the last few weeks, but it's still a strong seller's market and it is still on an upward trend. So overall, still a strong seller's market, still a lot of competition that buyers need to be prepared for, and sellers are still getting top dollar. As I said in the previous part of this video, we are seeing some market properties that are staying on the market a little bit longer. I think that's a combination of the increase in inventory here, along with the fact that a lot of buyers are traveling over the last 2 weeks. So we'll see what happens as we move out of the spring break and Easter holiday season, and we'll see what if the market goes back to the chaos that it was over here, or if it continues with the softening that we're seeing of the last 14 days. All right, so we'll see you on next week's market report.